Esoteric Meme Breakdown, episode 81. Everybody had a roommate like this. Tag them. Indeed, we all had that roommate, tag them by the way, who would be up to no good spinning around in their aerotrim at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday training to be a James Bond villain, often called a human gyroscope or multi-axis trainer. These giant gimbals were often created for exercise and/or for balance training. You may have seen images or videos of astronauts sitting inside them, training for a specific emergency maneuver in a specific craft, but I find the human-powered aerotrims much more interesting as ephemeral icons in an age of masochistic self-determination. Kinda sorta similar to a gymnastics wheel or a sire wheel. To make the aerotrim spin, the person inside shifts their weight and proceeds to hold on for dear life. This can require some serious core, arm, leg, back, and of course, butt strength to keep it spinning and to keep yourself from jostling around too much. That is, if the person inside isn't at a county fair with an attendant spinning it for them, allowing the person to just sort of flop around and get nauseous. That aside, if the aerotrim is self-powered, the odds of your inner ear becoming so sloshed that you slosh are much lower, and there are real health benefits, such as working out muscles you never even knew you had. And due to the feeling of weightlessness it can provide, it can also give temporary relief to the spine, which is what Helmut Suchi was going for when he designed what became the most popular version of the apparatus. Before I wrap this up, if you know where I can try out one of these things, let me know. If you've ever been in one of these things, I want to hear the story. And again, if your roommate is or was a victim of masochistic self-determination, please tag them. Keep an open mind, indulge your curiosity, and let me know if you'd think I'd make a great, terrible roommate. Esoteric Meme Breakdown episode 82, Certified USB. You will never government surveillance. Indeed, in 2013, a German publication leaked an NSA product catalog containing hacking tools for people within the NSA, and who knows who else, to use for good? Even before 2008, when this catalog internally debuted, there was already a robust ecosystem of USB-based hardware surveillance devices. The keylogger is a classic example of this. While there are also software versions of keyloggers that operate in different ways, some old-school USB keyloggers simply plugged in between a keyboard and the computer and logged a history of what was typed. It's a rather cumbersome process to set up and retrieve, and only targets a single computer, so other methods are preferred. Cottonmouth 1 did much more than log keystrokes. When plugged into a computer, the USB hardware installed software through an operating system exploit on the host computer that allowed the USB to act as a wireless bridge between computer networks. For example, if I had a computer network at my small business LAN party gaming cafe, where all the computers in my network could talk to each other but were not actually connected to the internet, and my evil brother owned a competing LAN party business, he could stroll into my shop, plug Cottonmouth 1 into a computer, and with the magic of a few more steps, he could spy on me, start throttling my computers under artificial CPU load, and anything else he so chooses. Cottonmouth 1 also implies other Cottonmouths, and indeed there are 2 more, but there were also 48 other hack tools within this NSA catalog, dubbed the ANT catalog. It's worth noting here that while air gaps are great ways of keeping networks secure, USB flash drives are eventually going to get plugged into these isolated networks and can introduce problems, such as the legendary Stuxnet computer worm that caused damage to Iranian nuclear centrifuges, rumored to have been co-developed by the US and Israel. Also rumored to not have actually been successful in stopping anything. But Peter, you're saying, this stuff all happened a decade ago. Surely it's gotten worse. How can I protect myself? The answer is, besides making sure you quickly install security updates on your devices, you can't. In fact, the only reason your internet-connected devices haven't been compromised is that you're not worth someone's time. But also, because the code many of your devices are running on is proprietary and not open source, you will never know if there's already a backdoor in it. So, make sure you're aware of your country's privacy laws. They're often your last failsafe and can protect you if you become a target one day. In the USA, some argue that because of Section 702's power of incidental collection in the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, our Fourth Amendment rights as US citizens are being violated every single time we send any electronic communication. Government surveillance was also expanded in the Reforming Intelligence and Securing America Act, signed into law by Joe Biden in 2024. Your freedom to privacy is being methodically eroded by the government. But you have nothing to hide, right? Stay visible, as the moment no one is watching is the moment you'll disappear. Esoteric Meme Breakdown episode 83. Cocteau Twins in the studio like, yeah, this sounds drop it. This meme banger is a modification to a common Young Thug meme. Young Thug, who has been accused in the past of not having the most articulate voice, has been replaced with Cocteau Twins, who have been accused of having even less comprehensible vocals than Young Thug, or even that they have intentionally obfuscated their lyrics into nonsense. This concept of garbled vocals ties in with the snippet from the Voynich manuscript, a Renaissance-era book that is still today undeciphered if it were decipherable. Summing it up, it's a book with pages created in the early to mid 1400s in a stream of consciousness gibberish language that follows a few syntactical rules and has cool illustrations of plants. It resembles an herbal book. One intriguing theory about the book is that it's not really encoded with anything. It may have simply been written to sell to someone who thought they were buying secret herbal, cosmological, or otherwise knowledge. A different theory is that it may have been written for the same reason Heaven or Las Vegas by Cocteau Twins, or Lifestyle by Rich Gang featuring Young Thug and Rich Homie Quan were. Reason may not be the most appropriate word. Rather, these three pieces of art value an emotional aesthetic experience higher than explicit storytelling. Perhaps this is best exemplified by another artist I've recently talked about, Hustalonia, in the song Words That Mean Nothing But Are Pleasant to Hear. It's a song of random English phrases stuck next to each other in a very intentional and pleasant way. The last lines of the song then literally convey the song's meaning. Words that mean nothing but are pleasant to hear, love me to death and disappear. Sometimes all you need is a melody with a few recognizable words. The same can be true of a book you can't read but can still experience. You can still get a sneaking feeling of awe at unknown, mysterious knowledge, even while knowing it's a work of fiction. So many pieces of art are intentionally designed for you to fill in the gaps with your own experience and imagination. Sometimes all it takes is a little push, listening to a song, flipping through a book, looking at a painting, to get your brain juices flowing. There are other theories, but I'm out of time, and you can learn more about them elsewhere. Regardless of the book's meaning, which you can read online in full, by the way, this is a 10 out of 10 meme. And dang, I didn't even get to talk about Rudolph II or Philip II. Someone send me some memes about them. Keep an open mind, indulge your curiosity, and let me know if you think abstract art is a leftist hoax, or if this book served as a field guide when tripping on a magic potion. Esoteric Meme Breakdown episode 84. When you walk into the bar and the guy in the Union Pacific Railway t-shirt is talking about the chatoyancy on his wooden knife handles, turn around 360 degrees and stay. Chatoyancy is derived from le French word for cat's eye. C'est-à-dire the glimmering effect cat's eyes have when you shine a light on them. It's primarily lingo for gemstones, but can also be used to describe some types of figuring in wood. Wood chatoyancy is a desirable effect for decorative wood pieces such as furniture, musical instruments, and knife handles. Intentionally growing a tree for this shimmer has proven difficult. However, there are certain conditions and trees that are more prone to making the effect. The chatoyancy effect is created when different types of wood grain interweave with each other. This can happen when a tree is under stress from wind, its own branches, or any other thing that causes pressure on the wood. When this pressure is felt, or when new branches are being made, the tree will create grain patterns that weave into each other so as to not rip itself apart from its own weight or other external factors. Because end grain and long grain catch light differently, since they are angled in different ways, depending on the angle you're looking at the wood, it will look different. So while it's hard to specifically grow a tree for this effect, it is easier to predict where you can find this type of figuring within a tree, such as any areas where branches are growing, sections at the base where the tree splits into multiple trunks, areas that just look like they've been under load. After identifying possible places where chatoyancy may be, the wood also needs to be cut in a specific way, usually quarter sawn, to maximize shininess. Then adding a gloss finish will make that knife handle pop. Oh yeah. There are many other types of wood figuring such as the medullary ray, but you can read more about them on your own, or go to the bar where this horse is. The Union Pacific Railroad was established in 1862 and operates on over 30,000 miles of track within the United States. According to internal records, they operated 99.99% derailment-free in the past 3 years. So what happened 4 years ago? I'm sure the horse knows. Keep an open mind, indulge your curiosity, and let me know if you think George Washington cut down that cherry tree because he was trying to make some blinged out dentures, or if you have a favorite sentimental tree. Esoteric Meme Breakdown, episode 85, Super Honourable Place, Entrance Hidden Among Cool Spikes, Valuable Treasures. This meme is based on the idea, or kind of paradox, or maybe just an unfortunate human trait, that the more menacing an area looks, the more intriguing it is for exploration. Because humans are mining more Bitcoin than ever before, and I leave a light on for my dog when I'm away, we have produced, according to the World Nuclear Association, a small amount of nuclear waste. That is, only about 400,000 tons. That's just over one Empire State Building's heft worth of nuclear waste. Honestly, that's nothing. But because this waste will be radioactive and will be able to kill people for hundreds, if not thousands of years, people today have to figure out ways of communicating with the people of the future, warning them not to enter long-term nuclear storage facilities. This field of study, making sure we don't excruciatingly murder people in the future, is called nuclear semiotics. Here's an example of a diagram made to dissuade people. Also note the 0.66 kilometer depth, which was carried over to the meme, replacing the 6-foot depth in the original image. A very nice touch. The idea to use spikes comes from the Sandia report, a 349-page report exploring, quote, markers to deter inadvertent human intrusion into the waste isolation pilot plant produced by the United States Department of Energy. In it, they suggested, among other menacing earthworks, a spike field. But again, these scary objects aren't going to stop future hoverboarders, neo-emo bands, and retired metal detector enthusiasts from entering. It's just luring them in. And that's the challenge. How do we make something that deters everyone, that accurately conveys a message of, in the words of disgraced rapper Viper, you gon' die? I think, me personally, I'd start with a scary fence followed by a sort of Rosetta Stone 2 with a really long warning message in as many different languages as possible. Then I'd put some Creed and Kate Bush playing over the top of each other on the loudspeakers. Some people have suggested cats that glow in the presence of radioactivity. Let me know how you'd solve this problem in the comments. Keep an open mind, indulge your curiosity by exploring a nuclear storage facility, and let me know if you consider 400,000 tons of nuclear waste to be a little or a lot. Esoteric Meme Breakdown, episode 86, the Amphibian Reproductive Mode Iceberg. This Iceberg meme is based on the revised classification for amphibian reproductive modes, RMs. But backing up a bit, a reproductive mode is a specific mode of reproduction. For example, humans have one very common reproductive mode. People do it, and then the baby is grown inside the mother, who then births a baby. But frogs have 72 reproductive modes in the most updated system of RM categorization. Let's consult the chart of all possible reproductive modes. In the RM/group section, A is for frogs, or rather, the order Anura, which includes toads, because they're the same thing, okay? B is for salamanders, and C is for all the gross-looking amphibians. So this chart is basically laid out in chronological order, left to right, with 11 different reproductive traits. These include reproduction type, oviposition, macrohabitat, spawning type, nest construction, embryonic nutrition, place of larval development, and some others that I skipped so I didn't have to say oviposition even more. Let's just take a look at a common and less common RM. So 1, 2, and 3 are perhaps the most well-known RMs, but 16, 42, and 27 are some of the most commonly observed. 16 ABC would be this: oviparity. Embryonic development takes place outside the body. The eggs are deposited in the environment. The eggs are not deposited in froth nests with no foam or bubbles during spawning. The eggs are deposited in water. Lodic, the eggs are deposited in flowing waters. The eggs are not deposited in a nest. The eggs are deposited on the subaquatic ground. The embryonic development is indirect. It has a common larval stage. Lycanthropic means that the animal gets its energy exclusively from its egg yolk reserves. Exotrophic, without parental feeding, means that after hatching, the animal uses its mouth to eat and does not depend on its parents. And finally, lodic again, the larvae develop in flowing waters. If most people were to have a general idea on how a frog is made, that's probably around what they're thinking. However, 74 ABC is not. First, these are viviparity, meaning the mother gives birth to the larvae, or quote, miniature edition of the adults. So obviously we skip some early steps because more development is taking place in the mother. So So here, 74, the animals are birthed as mini versions without a larval stage. Matrotrophic means the embryos get supplemental energy from the mother and not from vitallogenic yolk reserves. Since they're more developed, they get their energy by oral consumption of food without parental feeding. And there are 70 more types, but hopefully you get the gist now. So anyway, let me know your favorite reproductive mode. Keep an open mind, indulge your curiosity, and also let me know if you'd like to see humans have a more diverse RM tree. Esoteric Meme Breakdown, episode 87, Burnett Bolloten in hell like, where is Juan Negrin? Live Heaven reaction, history has acquitted me. Juan Negrin, purported glutton, womanizer, backstabber, KGB puppet, moron, man who oversaw the transfer of 510 tons of gold out from his home country of Spain to the Soviet Union, medical doctor turned prime minister of the Second Spanish Republic, was the most hated person in Spain for about 70 years, with half of that time being after he died in exile in France. However, with new information about his tenure during the Spanish Civil War unearthed in the 1990s and exhaustive research performed by writer Gabriel Jackson, his public image has begun to shift from villain to actually mostly a reasonable, pragmatic guy who sacrificed his career and public image in an attempt to save his country from the cancerous proto-fascist dictatorship led by Francisco Franco. So Spain, the quote-unquote strongest country on earth because no matter how hard it tries to destroy itself for centuries on end, it's always unsuccessful, was in a civil war from 1936 to 1939. It was the nationalists against the Republicans. The nationalists were fronted by dictator Francisco Franco and were allied with Nazi Germany, Italy, and Portugal. The Republicans were not like the Republicans we know today in the United States, but that goes without saying. There were many different groups within the Republicans, spanning from centrist to far left. Negrin was a moderate leftist who ended up being first the Minister of Finance and then Prime Minister of the Spanish Republic. His side, the Republicans, greatly outnumbered the nationalists in supporters, but severely lacked relative military capability. His choice to ship over 500 tons of gold to the USSR, which was portrayed as idiotic at the time, actually, according to author Gabriel Jackson and other contemporary scholarship, made a lot of sense, as the nationalists were going to capture the gold stockpile soon, and this way, it could then be sold for weapons, which, again, the Republicans lacked. While propaganda portrayed the Soviets as slimy scumbags, this was the most pragmatic choice. His other wagers, such as refusing to surrender under the assumption that Franco wouldn't accept surrender without bloody reprisals, and his total insistence for the Republic to hold out as long as it possibly could, knowing that war was going to break out and the more powerful democratic West would side with the Republic, turned out to be true, but he couldn't make victory happen, and no one in his place could have either. The combination of Republicans having a weaker military, too much internal division, and Europe taking a non-intervention stance meant that the war was unwinnable from the start, with hindsight, of course. Even after World War II, in exile, he tried to gather support against Franco. And as far as the womanizing, gluttony, and the other 7 deadly sins, that's mostly anecdotal, with the grain of truth behind the rumor being that in the 1920s, both of his daughters died. This was hard on his marriage, and he started seeing another woman. The actual events aren't well documented. He wasn't perfect, but better than the British journalist who was also separated from his wife. Keep an open mind, indulge your curiosity, and let me know who you think is in heaven, who most people think is in hell. Esoteric Meme Breakdown, episode 88, holographic kangaskhan and diglett collection, all Weezer albums on vinyl, 100%ing warblers. Yes, indeed, the classic Pokemon collector to Weezer record collector to the obsessive bird life list completionist pipeline. It happens to the best of us, and no one knows why. This meme is implying that all warblers look so close to each other that they're hard to tell apart, forcing the birder to always wonder if they saw the blue-winged warbler, or the prothonotary warbler, or maybe it was the pine warbler, but it certainly wasn't the elusive oven bird. To make matters worse, there are over 500 species of warblers if you're counting the Old and New World groups, which you are. There are other ways to make it more complicated, but for this video, we're leaving it at that. But to make matters better, they're not all yellow, as this meme implies, but to make matters worse again, in some cases there are variations between males and females and younger and older birds, which makes it very difficult to tell the difference. And I know what you're thinking, oh come on, Arjan Dwarshwas in his 2016 big year saw 6,852 different species. That's way more than a measly 500 warblers. Well, he only saw 259 species of warblers, so yes, it is difficult. Anyway, there are a lot of trait differences between warblers, so it's hard to give a very detailed overview of all of them, but usually they're small and eat bugs, just like my dog. The taxonomy of these things, especially the Old World warblers, is frankly exhausting. To sum it up, it's complicated. Let's move on. My dad's favorite is the previously mentioned ovenbirds. My favorite is the yellowish greenish one. As you can probably tell by now, warbler stuff needs hours of explanation and I only have 3 minutes. This meme checks out. It's true. Warblers are a black hole of time. But zooming out from the event horizon, there have been quite a few studies on the rationality of people's need to collect and organize. That is also complicated but interesting. I think I'll end the video here, but I will say, of all the collecting behaviors, truly the most irrational is collecting the Weezer studio album discography on vinyl. Keep an open mind, indulge your curiosity, and let me know your favorite species of warbler, your favorite Weezer album, and if you've ever had a holographic kangaskhan. Esoteric Meme Breakdown, episode 89. People be CT scanning liquified butterflies, but I can't get my brother's scanner to scan for the Wi-Fi. You have to type in the SSID and password manually. It doesn't scan for the networks. Excuse me. Contrary to popular belief, butterflies such as the painted lady seen in this CT scan don't totally liquefy when in a chrysalis, but they do turn to goo. But if you think about it, we also changed from moosh to cohesive units, but we just did it inside a human and not hanging upside down from a gutter. Regardless, the transformation from caterpillar to butterfly is still impressive, and what these and many other butterflies are capable of after they transform is even more so. What we don't do that many butterflies do is, after graduating from slow-moving caterpillar to fast-moving, totally erratic flying butterfly, travel the equivalent distance of 10 to 20 ultra-marathons in a body so fragile it looks like a breeze is going to tear it apart. Yet, in the right conditions, they can travel 30 miles an hour, usually at around 1,500 feet in the air. How? These things can't even fly straight! Because butterflies don't have traditionally the greatest wing design, with wings too large for their bodies, it confused people as to how the heck they had decent flight finesse. Some scientists did figure that out. The butterfly's body acts as a vibrational control device, providing offset vibrations to stabilize the creature. Scientists recreated this effect using what they called a robot. Then they tested on a real moth in front of a high-speed camera, shooting little plastic pellets from a toy cannon they took from a kid's pirate ship playset to see how the moth used its body to stabilize itself. After all, butterflies and moths do need to perform complex, evasive aerial maneuvers, otherwise they'd be gobbled up during their travels. Across the pond, painted ladies migrate thousands of miles from Africa to the Arctic Circle. Sometimes it's not one individual doing the whole trek, but successive generations. The painted ladies take breaks along the way where they pass the torch on to their children. It's really hard to track this, though, since painted ladies don't have a specific target migratory location, unlike North American monarch butterflies. However, painted lady individuals can also travel long distances and have been documented crossing the Atlantic Ocean from Africa to French Guiana, but the scientists think they were probably born in Western Europe, estimating their total mileage traveled in their lifetimes to be around 4,000 miles or 7,000 kilometers. They found this stuff out via, quote, coastal field surveys, wind trajectory modeling, genomics, pollen metabar coding, ecological niche modeling, and multi-isotope geolocation of natal origins. Again, this is very difficult to do. So the next time you're thinking that life is just so hard, remember that there are butterflies out there born on a leaf near a Lidl somewhere in Europe that flew all the way down to Africa and then crossed the ocean to South America in search of better living conditions, or maybe just to catch a vibe. Keep an open mind, indulge your curiosity, and let me know if you'd like it if humans had a postnatal metamorphosis stage. Esoteric Meme Breakdown, episode 90, PC Kids Fun Zone. Should I be concerned? Yes, you should be concerned. This is a drawing from an activity at a concert where a kid could draw a picture of their favorite part of the show and redeem it for a prize at the merch zone. However, this drawing is not from the concert, but I really wish it was. You know what? I'm choosing to believe that it was. This is what the concert looked like. And in that vein of choosing to believe stuff, this is what a biblically accurate angel looks like. This is what this phrase sounds like. This is the word thorn, with the individual letters flipped horizontally but still in the correct order. This could symbolize a warped perspective or a purgatory state of sorts, somewhere between true reflection, seeing Jesus within you, and being a heretic. The repetition of a single word and casting out nines is also present here. While not a one-for-one rip-off, this illustration does bring to mind pieces made in the era of manifestations. This was a time in the mid-1850s where Shakers, restorationist Christians, started experiencing experiencing wild, heavenly visions from spirits and such that they then expressed in what we would call various art forms. The era of manifestations coincided with a bunch of other religious revivals happening in upstate New York, including the Latter-day Saint movement, which I've talked about in a previous episode. This is A Sacred Sheet Sent from Holy Mother Wisdom by Her Angel of Many Signs by Samantha Fairbanks and Mary Wicks. According to artist Leon Guerre, these artists, often women and girls, were instruments who received messages from Shaker elders and other spirits. These messages would then be transferred to a maker who would transcribe the message into physical form. These are not drawings, but sacred rolls meant for contemplation and study, not for display. While some would say that the Shakers' most outlandish actions were their religious dances and artwork created from visions, this was at the time where a lot of wild stuff was happening in religion. Their truly most outlandish action was advocating for and practicing gender and racial equality in the late 1700s and beyond. Women and men could have the same ranks within the church and their communities. This was seen by many people as common sense, but to the haters, as earth-shattering. They have also been credited with the invention of the clothespin, the flat broom, the wood-burning stove, the threshing machine, the wheel-driven washing machine, and a bunch of other things, even though they only had maybe 6,000 members at their peak. This makes a fellow wonder if treating everyone with the same amount of respect and highly valuing education had anything to do with their technological achievements. Unfortunately, their ideals never spread as far as they should have, partially due to the Shakers practicing celibacy. Also, this engraving of the founder, Mother Ann Lee, made about 100 years after her death, was purported to be psychometrically drawn. Keep an open mind, indulge your curiosity, and let me know what was in the water in upstate New York back in the day.